A note of warning. This podcast explores graphic and disturbing stories and includes strong language. It therefore may not be suitable for our young listeners or other folks who may find it disturbing. Welcome to True Crime Daily, the podcast. I'm Billy Jensen. This is Owen Michael, bringing you our weekly True Crime Daily podcast for the week of February 26, 2019. This week, a man walks into a police station to turn himself in for murder, but they won't take him because he doesn't have proper ID. A boyfriend walks into a police station in Indiana to confess to an Illinois cold case murder that was originally deemed a suicide. But first, a no-body homicide case that goes to the jury in New Jersey.
That's right, Billy. We've got a no-body homicide case, which I've been hearing more and more about these lately. I didn't know, but this goes back a little ways. So maybe you can speak to this in a moment. This is out of Monmouth County, New Jersey. Liam McAtasney, I wrote it down and I still got it wrong. 21. He's 21 years old. He was 19 when he's accused of when he was 19 when he was accused of these crimes. He's accused of killing 19-year-old Sarah Stern after robbing her in 2016. They were high school classmates back when they were in high school. He allegedly strangled her at her house. He's accused of later throwing her body off a bridge with the help of a friend who's another classmate of both of theirs. Her body has not been found. That's Sarah Stern. McAtasney took Sarah Stern to a bank to withdraw money before the murder at her house. He thought he was getting $100,000 in the robbery. He was led to believe that she had found some old money in a relative's belongings and had deposited that money. He thought it was about $100,000. Turns out he only got reports vary between $8,000 to $10,000 in this, so he was a little disappointed in that.
And there was another guy named Preston Taylor, who was also 19 at the time, who was allegedly recruited by his buddy to help dispose of a body. Don't call me when you have that. It won't happen. And Taylor was actually Stern's.
I need your help.
Taylor was Stern's junior prom date, and he reportedly got a cut of the money for his help. And of course, again, he probably said $100,000, and then it turned into $8,000.
That's right. That's right. And this is the accomplice, by the way, who was Sarah Stern's junior prom date. So these three all, have some history together. Yeah. You remember how small towns and high school things.
So they testified that they threw her over the bridge, and they left her car at the bridge to make it look like she killed herself.
His buddy did.
And another friend who was working with police recorded Mr. McAtasney confessing to killing Sarah Stern on video. And that's one of the things that you have to get with whenever you have these suicide or homicide cases. A suicide is fairly easy to stage, especially something like this where you don't have a body and you just, it's going to have to be, it turns into what's called a wire case. And you're going to have somebody go in and do a wire. They did more than that. They actually did this on video and had a camera. And you got to get a guy to confess. And, you get enough in somebody. Now, this will turn into, was the confession coerced? Was he drinking? This or that? That's what's going to happen.
And the monkey wrench in this particular thing is that the friend who taped Liam McAtasney making this confession he's apparently an experienced horror movie maker. So he's an aspiring filmmaker in the horror genre. And Liam McAtasney's defense attorney claims that this thing was an audition, that he wasn't actually confessing to it. It was an audition, and he was sort of bragging to impress his friend who's really into horror movies.
Yeah, because he was telling that he bragged that he lifted her off the girl off the ground while he was strangling her.
Yeah, he was so strong.
And he watched for 30 minutes as she died in her home, and
literally says he was watching the clock
as she was dying.
In this audition. But yeah, so her body hasn't been found, and they've got this videotaped confession / audition. So the defense is a little bit, they've got two decent talking points here.
Yeah.
The jury is set to start deliberating this week, so we'll find out what's going on there.
It's going to be really interesting because the jury's going to watch the confession tape, and if this guy's an aspiring filmmaker, if it looks too good almost, it's going to be bad for him. Like if it looks too produced, hopefully it's just very, very raw, but if it looks too produced, which our show doesn't, by the way, but if it looks too produced, then what's going to happen is that the jury might start getting a little bit like, well, maybe this was.
So 2 points on that. Yesterday, as they began deliberations, they did request to watch the video again. not unlike many people will want to watch this video again to get all the finer points.
Well, actually, we have a lot of people that have said in the comments that they watch it over and over and over again.
As you should.
Just to try to look for tells that you're a serial killer.
The other point is the video itself was actually it looks like a dashboard camera. I watched it last night. It's from the driver's point of view, looking at Liam in the passenger seat, and he's describing it, and they're kind of smoking cigarettes and chatting or whatever. So it looks very off the cuff, and it's confusing to me whether this was secretly recorded, whether he was fully aware of this, because the initial reports said that he was secretly videotaped. But then that sort of puts the lie to if it's an audition, if you knew it was an audition.
Unless he was being completely method and he just wanted to catch him on the fly. I don't know.
Stay tuned.
So similar case in a sense where we have somebody that actually confessed. It's another suicide or murder case out of Illinois. Right. Guy walks into a police station, and all these cases are linked if you notice, these three cases. Man walks into a police station to confess a 2014 murder. So Caitlyn Whitaker died under suspicious circumstances. Caitlyn, excuse me, in the small town of Martinsville, Illinois, on Halloween in 2014. She was 20 years old. Her death was originally ruled a suicide. She had been shot in the head at her boyfriend's house. Now, her boyfriend, Connor Scott, was with her when she died, but he said, "Oh no, she shot herself."
Parents never quite bought that.
10 months later, her death was ruled a homicide. And because the Illinois prosecutor stated that Caitlyn couldn't have shot herself from where the bullet had entered her skull.
So that's what happened in 2014. This week, Connor Scott, the boyfriend, walked into a police station in Danville, Indiana, which is about 90 miles east of Martinsville, Illinois. This is sort of central Illinois, central Indiana near the border. It's a kind of small, kind of rural, kind of farmy. He walked into the police station in Danville, and he confessed to the murder. Police videotaped the confession. Illinois detectives now rushed over there to interview him, and they're going to extradite him back to Illinois. It's unclear what led to the confession, but
thank God.
The conscience.
No, absolutely. And her father said, "I really thought he was going to get away with this."
Right.
Was the quote. So again, another case where that was supposed, trying to be staged as a suicide. It's going to take a confession. Both of these are confessions. One of them was done surreptitiously and videotaped, and they're going to, but was a wire case. This one was actually somebody going in. But it's so often that's the only way you're going to be able to get these.
At least in this thing, even there was an Illinois prosecutor, as you said, that he said she couldn't have shot herself where the bullet entered her skull, which. At least they had categorized that as a homicide officially after the fact. We've covered stories where forensics evidence has led inconclusively to whether...
Well, what happens is that, they can say it's either inconclusive, it's undetermined, or it is a homicide, but there's not enough
to overturn
the DA. No, there could be enough to overturn that it's a suicide, but there's not enough to convict a guy. To get 12 strangers to be like, you know what? Yeah, that guy killed her, even though he was the only person in the house. There's just not enough there.
I'm thinking of particular stories, news stories in the past where somebody has similarly. You've got a bullet angle that is impossible, physically impossible for a left-handed person to do a particular way, and yet the initial crime scene ruled it a suicide, and there was just not enough momentum one way or the other. Even though clearly, if you do a physics, in our opinion, a physics analysis of this, that some of these things don't add up. This one did, and. Subsequently has confessed.
This guy finally did the right thing, and now we got another guy that did the right thing. He walks into a police station, and this I was pretty incredulous when I heard this. So gas station clerk Ola Basid, who was 58 years old, he was shot dead in an early morning robbery in New Orleans in September of last year. Now, police allege that Frank Sams Jr. and Farnell Jackson Jr. were caught on video committing this botched robbery. And Basid was shot several times. Suspects in the video tried to open the cash register. They failed. Then they stole cigarettes and other items and fled the scene. Farnell Jackson turns himself in September. A warrant was issued for Frank Sams' arrest. Now, Sams learns about this warrant, and he shows up to the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office in New Orleans to turn himself in. And the deputies at the front desk refused to process him because he did not have a state identification card. This is according to the attorney that accompanied him. So they said, he came in and he said, I want to confess not I want to confess, I'm sorry, I want to turn myself in because there's a warrant for my arrest for murder. And they say, no, you need a...
Right, and this basically, according to this attorney, and apparently this is all also videotaped, so there may be more to come on this story. This went on for at least 45 minutes or so, back and forth.
Yeah.
And at one point, the deputies even noted it's illegal not to carry an ID on your person, so we can take him in for not having an ID, which is fairly ridiculous.
So then the attorney shows the deputies a news article with Frank Sam's picture in it, which he probably didn't have a physical thing, but he probably just pulled it out on his phone and said, look, this is the guy.
Right.
And the deputies finally arrest him, and he was already on probation for possession with intent to sell marijuana, so they were able to get it for there. And the sheriff's office general counsel noted that it's unusual for someone to show up directly to jail on a murder warrant.
He did say, though, that Sam's misspelled his name several times so the warrant couldn't be located in the system. So either that's a dodge or Frank Sam's, who has an exceptionally easy name to spell, it would seem to me, doesn't know how to spell.
There are a lot of misspellings in crime.
Yes,
we know the famous in the Jinx, Beverly Hills being spelled with an E, E-Y. That was famous. The case of Ricky Casso, where they spelled, apparently these kids were into Satanism, and they wrote Satan Lives on the gazebo in Northport, Long Island, but they spelled it wrong. So apparently they were fashion aficionados because they wrote Satin Lives, S-A-T-I-N. A lot of, and actually recently, as of yesterday, somebody wrote on a Robert E. Lee statue, Freedom with one E. So.
Well, we can't say whether that was law enforcement personnel or not.
No.
But it does happen. You would hope that that's not the case.
I will say probably the most famous misspelling is the spelling of Helter Skelter in one of the Manson murders, and they spelled it Helter Skelter.
That wasn't necessarily a dodge to
No. That was just they really did not know how to spell.
Well, that sounds horrible, and if you're ever caught up in the legal system, you would hope that some of the details are correct, because that could be a nightmare.
Yes, but speaking of a potential misunderstanding, let's go into our comments. By the way, the comments on our YouTube page, we heard you about the background. You apparently did not like the very hippie-ish rug that was behind us. We are going to be putting up stuff here.
It was too Stevie Nicks for most people, so we put it on the ground.
We will
instead.
be putting up stuff here from my career. I think we should probably put stuff up on.
It should definitely be.
Yeah, it should be all my cover stories and everything like that.
Definitely be.
We'll put up some of your surfing articles. So, and thank you for noticing which cosplaying Owen has been doing as far as serial killers go. Very good for those listeners. And
drew a blank this week.
So here's our comments for the big comment story. It wasn't that big, but somebody went above and beyond, one of our Facebook fans. As again, we have one of the biggest Facebook true crime sites pages. And so in court on Friday, a Corporal Sean Wong testified he saw Jason Steiber holding a black cell phone with the screen illuminated and his mouth was moving. So they were saying that this man was driving while talking on a cell phone. You're not allowed to do that.
By the way, it is illegal to do that in what, all states or most states?
I
see a lot of you doing that.
Probably not Louisiana.
And don't do it. It's dangerous.
But the defense attorney says that his cell phone records prove that he wasn't on the cell phone and that he was actually eating a hash brown.
A McDonald's hash brown.
Which are delicious.
And roughly the same size as, maybe a medium-sized iPhone or something.
Yeah.
Well, it would have to be an older model.
So Ashley C. said, shoot, I'd spend $1,000 on a $300 ticket, too, if I knew the cop was lying. Frank A. said, there is no bite in the hash brown. I call fake news. Who has a hash brown near their face and doesn't take a bite? Interesting. Okay. But Rick Z went above and beyond / might actually be suspended from our Facebook account for a week because he said, and I quote, "It was a spudding ticket, I believe."
Oh.
Yeah. It's too bad it had to be hashed out in court. He was roasted on the stand and still stuck to his story. The truth lies in the middle. It's all a bunch of facts mashed together. I'd be hot if it was me. Someone would fry. It would definitely cause a wedge between me and law enforcement. Now, Rick, we appreciate the puns, but you are suspended from commenting on our stories for a week. Sorry, Rick.
I'm sure that Rick meant to do that, and he was trying everyone's last nerve with all of those puns.
It's one pun too
very,
many.
very clever, and get out.
Yes.
We'll see you in a week.
We will see you in a week.
Of course.
Yes. No, I'm serious.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's
All right.
blocked.
Sorry, dude.
Sorry. So we will see you next week. Thank you very much for listening once again. Go to Stitcher, go to iTunes, and
check out our YouTube page.
Check out the YouTube page as well. Subscribe.
It's going to be some great surfing.
It's going to be a lot of great stuff on there. And we will talk to you next week.
Over and out.